Hello, I'm Davon from 95.7 The Spin, and as you can see, I'm with a very special guest today. This Bloomington-based artist is known for his songwriting and his layered indie sound. We are here to talk about his EP, Dizzy in the Dark, and the stories behind it. Please help me welcome my guest, Mike Adams, at his honest way. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine, Davon. Thanks for having me.
And it's good to have you too. First of all, you probably get this question a lot, but where does this name come from? Like, it's very creative, and
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And actually, I'll tell you, when we've been on tour in the past and we've shown up to various places, around the country where they've written our name on a marquee or on a sandwich board or something, it's been wrong in every like way you can think of, like every variation you could ever imagine. We've seen them all. It's pretty great. The name, though, when I made the first record, Oscillate Wisely, I was not planning to have a band. It was just me making a record kind of for the fun of it. Uh, but when I put it out, I didn't just want to say Mike Adams. That felt too boring to me. And I didn't want to make a band name, like, some creative band name, to make it sound like there was a group of people working on it either. I didn't want to be disingenuous. So I tried to find a middle ground. Yeah.
so is it some kind of like Sade, she had a band too, so is it that type of situation?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I write the songs, and actually I tend to, this is not exclusively the case anymore, but for a long time it was. The first three albums for sure. I recorded all the music on the records too. So the albums were just me, but then I would put a band together with my friends to perform. So yeah, a little bit like Sade.
Okay, okay. And do most people when they're introduced to you, do they get it confused?
At this point, we've kind of looked every way that a band can look, from like I've played solo shows to like we've played with a humongous band. Like so I think there's one, maybe not an expectation anymore, and two, kind of like anything goes. So I don't ever feel anymore like I'm either overwhelming anyone or letting anyone down.
I just feel like the name really sticks with your brand, and honestly, if people don't get it, they don't get it.
Paste Magazine wrote a thing one time that was like the top 10 best bands with the worst names, and we were on there. So
Oh my God. But we are here to talk about Dizzy in the Dark, your EP, and that released in December. So what was the creative process of making that EP?
yeah, so when I was recording the last two albums I made, Graphic Blandishment and Guess for Thrills, the last two full lengths, I kind of wrote and recorded those at the same time. So I had a big batch of songs to choose from. And we kind of assembled the albums together into what we thought was like a cohesive sort of idea. And then the songs on Dizzy in the Dark are the songs that are kind of left over from those recording sessions that didn't really, to me, fit on the albums, though I still liked them. And so I hadn't put anything else out, this year besides a single. So wanted to do something. Also felt I could do a little good with it, and try to raise a little money. Uh, and so, yeah, that was the idea, just to kind of continue sharing what I'd made and not just sit on it. I mean, well, actually, one of the songs that's on there comes from the sessions from the fourth album. So it reaches back to like 2019. So those songs have been hanging around for a long time.
It was like unreleased for a while, but like you put it on this EP. Was it that type of situation?
Yeah, for sure. So I had been just collecting songs, gathering material, and then when the pandemic hit and everything kind of shut down, I definitely, especially when I was like basically at home for 3 months, I definitely took advantage of that, and that's when I started making those albums. They were written prior to the pandemic, um, but they definitely exist thanks to that, sort of break from day-to-day life.
So how did this EP come together compared to your previous releases?
Yeah, this was a little bit more of just like, oh, I just want to share something. I was just in the mood to share something and to try to do a little good, and I had that stuff. Because normally, making a record, like an album, like a full album, there's just a lot of forethought that goes into it, a lot of planning, a lot of decision making with the label or with the other people I'm working with. And this was just something that was like, oh, my friend Adam helps me make a lot of this stuff, most of it. And he had the songs, and I said, hey, what if we finish these up and just get them out right now just because we can? like we have that opportunity, and it'd be fun to share something. And so it was a lot quicker. Like between the time I decided I wanted to get them out and by the time we put them out was like a couple months. This came together really quickly. Considering the fact that the songs are very old, we had the material, but it all came together more quickly than a typical release.
Slow Zoom, that's that's like a recent release for you, and you stated that it was a experience that you'd never had. So, I mean, nostalgic experience that you never had. So, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so that song, that is also a very old song. We recorded that also like pandemic times. Our friend owns a recording studio, and he just needed to run some recording experiments to prepare for a job that he was getting ready to do, where he was going to have to use some equipment that he wasn't as used to. So he invited us to come to the studio and do some recording just so he could practice on his equipment. Um, so we started recording that in like 2021, I think, or 2020. I'd have to look to see, but it's in that zone. And then we just sat on it for a really long time and it was unfinished. And we just never, it was just kind of a one-off thing that we did for the fun of it. So it never had a home. There was never a plan for that song. And so eventually, similar thing where it was just like, oh, let's finish this thing and get it out there. But what was different about the experience is that I took the band in with me to the studio. That was the first time that we all had gone into the studio like that together in the configuration that we also performed live in. So it was much more like the live band making a record, which we had not tried that before. I've recorded with other people, but in different configurations. So this was the first time that the live band went to make a record together, and I really enjoyed it. It was great. So now we're making a whole album that with that mode. Right now we're working on it now.
So, you are a Indiana, Bloomington, Indiana native. So, how does being based in Bloomington shape your sound and your day to day as a artist?
Good question. So I should say I'm actually not a native of Bloomington. I moved
Okay.
here about 25 years ago. I'm from northern Indiana, like up in the cornfields. Uh, so I feel like I've gotten a little bit of all of Indiana in the last, 40 some odd years of my life. But Bloomington has had a massive impact on how I approach making music, the kind of music I make, the peers that are around me to help me make that stuff and the way they work. Bloomington is an awesome town for being creative because it's very laid back. It's got a kind of a, because of the university, it's got this, for lack of a better word, kind of a slow moving hippie vibe that I really appreciate, even though that's not really who I am. I'm like, I tend to move kind of fast and, yeah, I'm working all the time, but I like being in a place that's slow. It kind of slows me down a bit in my brain. Um, and puts me around other creative people who are just working at a pace that is deliberate and intentional. And so many people in Bloomington who are involved in creative pursuits are like here for that. Like that's a remarkable thing about Bloomington is that a lot of people come here to pursue a creative life. And I know there are people everywhere doing that, thank God. But Bloomington is kind of a magnetic place for that. So it's just a little more concentrated here than say where I grew up or other places I've been.
Bloomington is very, I mean, it's very creative from what I see, and with the university, and so like overall, like, how do you see Indiana's alternative local scene right now? Where do you fit in, like within a artist? I mean, as an artist.
Yeah, great question. I am an old man who's a dad, so I feel less connected to Indiana's music scene than I have maybe ever. Uh, though I still keeping an eye on it and participating as much as I can. And I love Indiana's like truly like the the vein, and of course it reaches out all over the place, but the vein from Fort Wayne to Evansville through Indianapolis through Bloomington reaches over to Terre Haute, reaches over to Richmond, like every place gets touched. But I love that vein of just like passing uh, people and music back and forth through all of that. And I think it's had a major impact on me and how I do it and what I think about it.
And back to Dizzy in the Dark, there was some kind of message where you stated that you was going to donate to Indiana Youth Group, and for you releasing that IP, how did you contribute to donating into that Uh, that group.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that came about because I just was aware of that organization. Um, and it was also at a time when I felt like young people, especially in Indiana, have been targeted by our government. Young people in general, but also like LGBT folks who, kids, man, kids who need protection and need support. And that's not okay with me to target children.
Right,
So, I like what they're doing up there at youth group. They're called IYG now. I had learned that through this process actually. But their whole deal is just like offering a comfortable place for kids to figure out who they are and what their deal is, and in a place that is not so welcoming to them, and to provide them with like organized group, you know, what's the word? Like just like hanging out with people who are like them. From that to like food and clothing and housing resources and all kinds of stuff. And they just cover the whole spectrum of like need in a way that I was really impressed by and was very happy to contribute to. And so because Adam and I were able to kind of make the recordings essentially for free at each of our homes, I was able to donate all of the money, any money that someone paid for the EP. I kind of monthly, I was just sort of gathering it all up and sending it to them to IYG.
mhm,
And so I could send all of it, which was great. So I didn't, there's no accounting to do. It's just, oh, here's another batch of money for you, which, it's modest, but it feels good to be able to funnel that other people's contribution and care. It feels really good to be able to hand that over.
right.
Uh, yeah, and honestly, yeah, it's other people who are doing it. I just hopefully I opened a little doorway to get the money there.
I mean, you as a band or as an artist, you've been active since 2011, and so do you feel like your material has evolved from then to now?
Yeah, definitely. I would be curious what someone else would say about that question. Uh, I definitely think so. The way I make it has changed. The way I approach songwriting has evolved, and not in any kind of like you know, planned ways or anything. I just am sort of following this creative thread all the time. But I definitely do. I write songs and record them differently in some ways than I did in 2011. Uh, I don't know how to necessarily qualify that stuff other than it just has evolved as I learn things. I've carried them with me, or left other things behind when I thought they didn't work, or um, just following the muse kind of, a little bit. So whatever sort of is calling to me or feels good, I sort of tend to chase those down the rabbit hole.
Your music has like a mix of intimacy and distance. So how intentional is that when you're like writing your music?
Intimacy and distance is like the story of my life. Like I'm always trying to, in life in general, I feel like just personally as a person, I am just trying to figure out what that is all the time. And the relationship between being someone who's trapped in a body and in desperate need of connecting with the people around me, but all of us are trapped in a body. And so it's like we've invented all these ways to try to like short circuit what's inside of us to be able to connect to what's inside of someone else. And I feel like I'm on a constant quest for ways to find ways that work for me to connect. And music has been one of the biggest ones for me. And so I I don't think I'm very intentional about that when I'm writing, but I do think what I try to be intentional about is opening myself up to let come out whatever needs to come out. And that's taken a lot of, figuring out and practice, but that's what I'm trying to do each time. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
So it seems like you're close with this duo named Busman Holiday. So can you tell me about your relationship or friendship with them?
Oh, I love those guys. Yeah, I've known them basically since I moved to Bloomington and started getting involved in music here. They are from here.
Hmm.
Uh, so they've been making music here since they were very young. And I became aware of them right away because they were like busking on the street a lot at that time. And so they were just visible. They were everywhere. And yeah, through the years, we've just had opportunities to play shows together, which then got us a little closer. And then we were just in the same music circle, so we knew all the same people. And then as we overlapped more, those guys, they come from a real different place than me, but for whatever reason, the way those guys do life and the way I do it is simpatico in this way that our friendship has been very fast and very um, fluid and easy. And I love those guys so much. They're I'm also not unique in that way. They are really good at befriending everyone that they encounter, and I feel really lucky to be one of those people. I feel grateful that we've had a lengthy amount of time to just be neighbors, essentially. I also happen to work with Addison, so I see him all the time, every day, basically. And we even then, we still maintain friendship. So I think that speaks volumes, and I really do love those guys a lot. They're wonderful.
Like I said, y'all hosted like events together.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all did some material together. Uh, is there? I mean, do you have something like in the works with them?
I don't, but it's funny because we actually haven't really collaborated on music very much together. We've played some shows together, but we've never, with a few exceptions. I sang on their album, they sang on one of mine, but just brief little things. We've never performed together, like in the same act at the same time. We've never really written together. The ways I've collaborated with them have been interestingly outside of all of our songwriting, which also feels very special to me because you would think we would write songs together or collaborate musically in more ways than we do. But that's actually, they do their thing, I do mine. But then when we put it together, it tends to be something else entirely, which I love.
And speaking of like bonds, is there like any bonds that you were personally close with, like in the Bloomington musical scene?
So many, so
Mm.
many. I couldn't even list them all. I do have to make a special shout out to my buddy Jared Cheek, who used to run Flannel Graph Records. If he didn't do that, I don't know if Honest Weight would be what it is. He definitely sort of held my hand through the beginning of the band, uh, in a way that was exactly what I needed. Things happen for me in exactly the kind of way that my brain needs them. And I feel really, again, just grateful and lucky to know him. But beyond that, like so many people truly there's so many bands in Bloomington and have been. So people who have come and gone. This town's pretty transient. People move in and move out all the time. So there are people in my life who are special to me who don't even live in Bloomington anymore. My friend Ben is a good example of that, right? I've known him since he was a kid, and he's one of the best drummers in the world. And he played in the band with us for a while. Now he's in Los Angeles, like doing incredible stuff. And he's across the country, but I still get on the phone with him and call him and talk about life. And there's so many people like that for me, like a massive list. I feel so overwhelmed and lucky to uh, live in a place that has brought me near so many excellent people.
So, what is something that you've been recently into that has nothing with you making any songs?
Yeah, great question. I've been cooking a lot. I've never been much of like a kitchen guy, but yeah, in the last year and a half, 2 years, I've been spending a lot of time in the kitchen and getting a little better at cooking and figuring out, you know, what I like and what I like to make. So that's been an interesting turn in my life that I didn't anticipate.
So, like, what inspired you to make the material that you make now? Like, who are the artists that made you do that or
Yeah,
influenced you
yeah.
to do that?
Great question.
Yeah.
There are people that I knew then who don't know this necessarily, but when I was a young teenager, who have influenced me into my life. Um, so like, yeah, my peers, my friends, always a massive, major influence on me. Recently, I got the opportunity to meet and hang out with a few times, someone who has been a giant influence on me. Um, I come from this sort of like alternative Christian music scene from when I was a kid. The Martin brothers from this scene, Jason Martin from Starflyer 59 and Ronnie Martin from Joy Electric. They're brothers, and they've been making stuff since long before I was. Uh, and I was just an early fan of what they did. I liked the way they did it. I liked what they made. But what I got to say, I met Ronnie recently, I got to hang out with him. And what I got to tell him was what a giant impact just watching he and his brother be consistent about making things. Like watching their sort of like approach to art making without it being necessarily their career, or even at moments when it was their career, staying sort of on task in a way that's had a massive influence on me and why I'm still doing it now and how I still do it. And not just them, but it was fun to get to say that to him, and to kind of thank him for that. Like, oh, you laid out a framework that I could guess at or follow or find my own way of doing. And that's been a giant boon for my life, I named them specifically, but even beyond that, like just the creative people around me have always been the biggest influences on me, and not even musically.
What is something that you are excited about right now that the fans might not see yet?
I'm working on a lot of stuff. It's been 3 years since I put a record out. We've had some singles and EPs and stuff along the way, but I have been working a lot, and I'm really excited about what I'm doing. I'm working on kind of two separate batches of things, and both of them, both of the kind of distinct ideas, are things I haven't done before. So I'm excited to share that stuff when the time is right. I have no idea when that will be. It's a ways off still.
I'm very excited of what you have planned. And one last question. So, if there is somebody who is discovering your music, what is the best place for them to start at?
Yeah, good question. I think that different people would have a different answer to that. But I think if you're into like catchy tunes that are like earworms, I'd say go for Graphic Blandishment. It's a little more like a alternative rock oriented record. And I'd say if you're into more like picking apart my innermost feelings, go for Guess for Thrills.
And Mike, I really want to thank you for having the time to talk about your EP Dizzy in the Dark and everything behind it. Make sure you check out the EP Dizzy in the Dark, which is out now, and stay tapped in what he has next. This has been Davon from 95.7 The Spin, and I will catch you the next time.